Several years ago, Russ and I went on a 5-day trip up the eastern side of Nevada. A friend of mine in Caliente, Nevada, let me know that the Union Pacific Big Boy 4014 locomotive was coming through Caliente and would be there overnight. Only 25 of these steam engines were made between 1941 and 1944. They were the largest in the world, measuring 132 feet in length, and it was restored to original operating condition and sent on a tour through several states. We were lucky to have a local take us to some key places to view the train coming into Caliente. We were also able to take some photos as it stopped there for the night. Next morning, our friend Lynn and her brother took us to a couple spots to grab some photos. It was really cool. Once the train went off into the distance, we headed out to check out the Panaca kilns. There are quite a few of these kilns throughout Nevada, and they were used to make charcoal for refining ore. These kilns are really in good shape. We headed back to Highway 93 and took a turnoff from Minerva. It's a ghost town that had heavy tungsten mining activity, beginning in 1916 and closing in 1918. In 1936, the mines were reopened but closed again in 1940. From here, we headed north to meet back up with Highway 93. Our next scheduled stop was Muncie. Many times we get to a site and find that it's no longer there, and that's the case here. We came upon this old stone house along the way, and then had a scenic drive through Shelbourne Pass back to 93. We had to backtrack south to McGill to Ely to spend the night. There aren't a lot of hotels through parts of Nevada, and we both like to get a good night's sleep. The next day we headed north with a brief stop in Currie. Up the road we turned off to the Sprucemont district, where in 1869 prospectors discovered that just about the entire northeastern side of Spruce Mountain contained ore. In 1871, the mining town of Sprucemont was the first town to form. We explored the town of Sprucemont first and were blown away with a view looking down at the valley below, with the Ruby Mountains in the distance. We drove up the mountain a bit to the remains of the Monarch Mine, and we spent a lot of time looking through what was still standing. I have a more extensive video on the Sprucemont district, which I'll give a link in the description. After taking a myriad of photos, we headed down a very rough road to Black Forest. Along the way, we passed the remains of some old buildings. I believe it was the old Latham mine. When we got to Black Forest, we found a few structures still standing. One was obviously a blacksmith shop. One of the buildings still contained some really old machinery. The next stop down the road was Jasper, which was originally called Star King. There were several old log cabins left in Jasper to check out. It was just amazing how long these old cabins last. Russ and I still consider this was the roughest road we've ever been on in our off-road travels. I drive a Jeep Rubicon and Russ a Toyota Tacoma, off-road equipped, and to attempt to navigate this road with anything else would not be advised. From here we drove up to Wells, Nevada, and checked out the ghost town of Metropolis, which is outside of Wells. This was established in 1911. The Lincoln School, with only its archway still standing, was built in 1919. A couple of these shots were taken at an earlier trip. We spent the night in Jackpot, Nevada, which is close to the Idaho border. Got up before sunrise and drove up through Idaho, then dropped back into Nevada and reached Jarbidge around 8 in the morning. Jarbidge is said to be the most remote town in the 48 lower states. You cannot reach it after the snow starts falling in late October, and the roads may be impossible until June or July. As we entered Jarbidge, we were not disappointed. It was like going back in time, dirt roads with no sidewalks. We were hungry as we left Jackpot before the restaurant opened. Luckily, the outdoor inn was open for breakfast, and we enjoyed a great breakfast with homemade bread and nice conversation with the owner. It was the middle of October, and they had already had a small snowstorm, which did not last long. After breakfast, we walked down the dirt street and photographed every building, which really didn't take that long. My favorite place was the old jail built in 1911. The town was established in 1909 when gold was found. Prospectors flocked into the canyon and named it Jarbidge after a mythical Shoshone legend. Jarbidge was a mispronunciation of the Shoshone legend. It's a giant who roamed the canyon and threw men into a large basket to take them home for dinner. The population grew to about 2,000 in 1911. You know, I have a more detailed video on Jarbidge, and I will share a link in the description.
I was still alone.
Leaving Jarbidge, we traveled a very scenic road through the Jarbidge wilderness area.
That you held me, 'cause I couldn't let go of who I thought I was.
We rode down through Elko, then through the beautiful Ruby Valley and the Ruby Marshes.
I guess that's how things go.
Looking across this vast valley, you can see the Spruce Mountains that we explored a couple days ago. We're always on the lookout for wildlife to photograph, and we're fortunate to find a few Mustangs along the way. Towards the end of the drive, we had this long, straight road to travel to meet up with Highway 50 and then take us to Eureka for the night. On our fifth day, we headed down to Belmont Mill. Cruising down the dirt road to Belmont Mill, we came across this beautiful band of black Mustangs up on this bridge. Further down the road, we encountered another band of Mustangs. Belmont Mill is in White Pine County, and not to be confused with Belmont, which is located in Nye County. Approaching Belmont Mill, we were immediately taken back by the size of this old mill. It's nestled amongst these pinyon pines and junipers. You know, we've traveled through so many old mining towns where there's nothing left but the foundations. This is a perfect example of a turn-of-the-century Nevada mining camp.
It's yours and then it's history. When I was feeling ready, it ended just because. Am I a ghost in someone's body? Am I a voice inside your mind? And if I'm...
Again, I have a more detailed video on the mill, and I'll leave a link in the description. We left Belmont Mill and drove down to Shermantown, a town that originated in 1869. Unfortunately, Shermantown's prosperity was short-lived. Before the end of 1870, mines on Treasure Hill began to fail, and Shermantown quickly declined as a result, dropping to only 200 people by the spring of 1871. Our next stop was the ghost town of Hamilton, which appeared after the discovery of rich silver ore at Treasure Hill in 1867. By 1869, the population was about 12,000 people. However, like most of the mining towns, once most of the ore was mined, the town began its decline in 1870. A large fire in 1873 leveled much of the business district, and most of it was not rebuilt, and the town's population sank to about 500 people. Not much is left but this portion of the old hotel that was leveled by an earthquake.
I'm sorry, I haunt myself sometimes.
Our last stop of the day before heading home was driving up the hill to the remains of Treasure Hill. The discovery in the spring of 1868 of silver ore on Treasure Hill led to a prosperous but short-lived boom. Later described as the shortest and most intense mining rush. Over a 20-year period until 1887, the Treasure Hill mines produced $22 million worth of silver. This was a wonderful 5 days of travel through Nevada, and I appreciate your watching the adventures of two old guys in the middle of nowhere. I would also appreciate your subscribing so you can go along with us on future journeys.
Unprepared for the things you told me. I hope I didn't scare you.